So how does a young person even know these thoughts are very entrepreneurial and decipher when they're appropriate for business, for your day to day as an employee?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have two architectural firms and an engineering firm right now that are clients. So we always so one of the firms I've been working at 15 years. The other one, I think I'm on my 9th year.
This is where you coach.
I coach,
Yeah.
And so in one of the firms, I coach all the way down. Like they have 130 employees. I coach like half of them, all the way down to the first level that they get direct reports. So every generation, all the levels up, all the generations always, that next generation. So now I have these 27, 30-year-olds, right, who are 5 years into their career, saying that, the ones coming out now, they don't have ambition, they're not interested, they just want the paycheck. And I always say, you just change the narrative, change the type of questions that you ask, what it's important to them. What else are they involved in?
Are you saying when you're interviewing them or developing or both?
Both, because we label people too quickly, right? We put people in a box, we label them. So both to those younger ones who are being judged, right? Express yourself. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, express yourself. What's important to you? Ask the questions, manage up. Managing up is really important. The earlier we learn how to manage up, to have those conversations, someone else might say, well, no, you can't do that here. You put yourself at risk. You're going to be labeled. I'd rather be labeled as someone who actually has an opinion.
Troublemaker, right?
Well, not necessarily.
Not a real troublemaker, but perception.
It depends on how you say it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, it's not
true.
me, more. It's, here's what's important to me. Here's what I'd like to achieve. And for those who are managing those people, now you can hold someone accountable to that. I always say, do you know what's important to your directs? Because now you can manage them. You say you want to advance in your career. You say that architecture is a field you want to be in, but your behaviors don't align with that. So on both sides, have a voice. And I always find that people who tend to be more introverted, they actually have quieter minds. They actually tend to be the more curious people. They may not stand out in the interview as the gregarious, but I can tell you that in that second job or that third, or even in that first interview, it's not always how much you say. It's about the quality of what you say.
I think this is a very interesting theme to just your point. What I'm hearing you say is counterintuitive to a lot of young people today. When can I speak my voice, right? Either in the job interviewing process to be authentic and real and sincere, as we've talked about. And to your point, and I saw this so often during my career in finance, right? Is it okay that I speak up, right? As somebody in the analyst program or the internship program. And your point, Richard, is if delivered with the right intent, it's more than okay early on. Is that the point?
Yes.
Speak your voice.
But also credibility. Intent and credibility. Right. It's important to marry those two issues.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah,
but early on.
So important. What Jerry just said is so important, right? Because when your intentions start to get questioned, and that's the me, I,
somebody's
language,
grandstanding, right?
It's all about me and what, then your sincerity, your care for others than yourself.
Sure.
So intentions is important. And sometimes if you have a certain style that you've been told, you come across as a little aggressive or assertive. Sometimes you just say that. Sometimes I come across as a little aggressive. I just want to put that out there. It's not because I don't care. I always say, put your biggest fear out front. I mean, again, we're talking about authentically. So if you too many times what other people criticize you, especially in your growing up, what your family says, you got to tone it down. And then you're at work and they say, I really appreciate your, saying how you feel. Like my family would say, I'm the most impatient person in the world. And if I took a survey of all my clients over the year, they'd go, oh my God, you're the most patient person in the world.
It's interesting.
So again, it's us.
Right.
The noise, then the tapes that play, that's what we're always working to overcome. Right. But if we truly know that in order to reveal yourself, you need to express yourself.
Well, you're getting into the point, which we've touched on, we can elaborate, of self-awareness, right? Or your brand. I love to talk about this. Mm-hmm. Your personal brand, right? Is the way you're coming across, or do you think you're coming across, received in the same way, either in your work life or your personal life? And if you're not self-aware, and to your point, I say this all the time, I think by talking. And I was told often in the workplace, when is this guy ever going to shut up? But I would say, I think by talking, and that would deflect the introvert in the room who would say, I can't get a word in edgewise. But it's self-awareness. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the interesting part is if you have that level of self-awareness and you can put some of those things out front, right? You actually maintain your power. And to me, power is one of those words, in language that's always, people are sensitive when you talk about power. I talk about power, internal fortitude. Don't give your power away. I can tell you, I had 5 coaching sessions yesterday with clients. I can tell you in every one of those coaching sessions, that word came up in terms of how they were navigating through a difficult conversation, whether external or internal. I just said, why are you giving your power away? Like just listen to what you're saying. You're not being truthful. You're not being honest. You don't have pure intentions. You're playing a game. You're playing the system. With all that said, there are times, right? There's a time and place, right? So you have to. That's where the understanding in a certain moment, it may not be appropriate. Don't run into your boss or your supervisor just came back from a meeting. You see that they're not in a good state of mind. Don't go in there and say, solve this problem for me.
Right. Use some human intelligence.
Yeah, and that empathy and understanding, managing up that, where your supervisor can let their guard down with you, even though you might have 10 years less of experience, is so powerful.
Right. And the powerful part of human intelligence is what makes you unique and differentiates you. AI is something anybody can have, right? But human intelligence is really a great skill. But Richard, let me ask you, how can young professionals watching choose a mentor or be coachable or both?
Yeah, mentorship is interesting, right? We probably have, if we had definitions of it across the three of us, we probably have slightly varying
different levels,
of definition. To me, the most successful mentors is someone who will come to you where the mentee is at, rather than preach, rather than tell. There's no telling in a mentorship relationship. And you ask them questions, you as a mentee, and they're sharing experiences. Okay, then it's a dialogue, it's a conversation. A lot of mentors think, I got to tell them what it means to be successful, to make better decisions. It's not. It's what's important to that mentee that the mentor can help get out of them. Similar to coaching. To me, the differentiation between coaching and mentoring is, with mentoring, the mentor at some point is going to bring their experience into, creating that list of options. In coaching, we stay in questioning mode more, right? Because we believe that person has the answers. They have the experience to discover their options on their own. So it's very, it's a small difference, but we're consciously as a coach bringing out what we know to be inside that they may not see what's inside themselves.
Are both important, coach style or mentor style?
Yeah, I think both are extremely important, and I think it's interesting. So I share we launched our foundation this year, and one of the requirements of anyone who puts financial investment into the foundation, makes a donation, is that they're going to commit to some level of mentorship, because I have this big network of young leaders in the States and around the world, and right now I'm putting together a mentor training. A lot of these are seasoned professionals. A lot of our donors, have 30, 40, 50 years of experience. But do they know what it means to truly be a mentor? I'm preaching to the choir here. But what does it mean to truly be a mentor? Truly, if you're mentoring, I mentor people all throughout Africa is a big area for me. In Algeria, a young woman in Algeria who's she has her master's in mechanical engineering, her bachelor's in education. She's teaching in Algeria. I need to know where she is. What's possible where she is? Tell me about where you are. Where can I help you move forward? As opposed to here's how you do it. How am I going to know how to do it there?
Right.
And at the same time, I've been mentoring her for about 16, 17 months now. And if I went through my emails and showed her, it's like, you listen to me. You ask me important questions. You give me hope when I may not see it. Right? This is what you want to hear when you're mentoring. And as the mentee, how do you find that?
Yes.
This is what happens in organizations. So and so is going to be your mentor.
Right.
Assigned. Right.
Assigned.
Right.
And it takes a while.
We struggle with that in training the mentors, and you can train all you want, but if they don't want to follow the training, they're just going to be, this is what you have to do.
Yeah. And so it's hard. It's a trial and error.
Yeah.
I've had many, great mentors over the years. I think some of my best mentors are authors of books that just were powerful to me. And they made me question myself in the way, like Adam Grant's a good example. He has this book, Think Again.
He has a lot of great books, that guy, right? Yeah.
And there's another one around hidden potential. But the Think Again book is really, it's a great mentoring. It's like.
What's the premise? What's the.
It's all about curiosity. It's all about, rather than, respond, it's what's Stephen Covey,
7 Habits.
7 Habits, listen with the intent to reply, but whatever that exact wording of the habit is.
Close enough.
It's close enough. But it's keep your mind.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Right.
Yeah, which is an incredible book, but it's all around staying more curious longer.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not easy in the world we live in.
No.
But
There's too much clutter, right?
To our listeners out there now, let's not lose this point. What you're hearing from our guest here is choosing, if you can, or investigating to what's going to be right for me when you're thinking about aligning yourself with a mentor. Give it some thought, is what you're telling our listeners out there.
Yeah,
not every mentor is going to be right. You know this from your work at Fordham, right? How do you align them? But if you're listening out there and you're looking to secure the advice you're giving them, which I think is incredibly important, do your homework. Don't just take a mentor just because they're offering it to you. Yeah,
that's such a great point. And there's probably something to learn from everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, use it to, build some muscle and continue to be in that place of discovery. Oh, I have a mentor. No, it's a life of mentorship. We want to be mentors to others, which is another way of building that muscle early.
Yeah.
Right. So you can be in high school and be a mentor to others. I was involved in the Big Brothers program when I was 12 years old, helping mentor a young 8-year-old, going back when I was much younger, obviously. You can be a mentor. So building that mentor muscle, then you know what it looks like to be then you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So do some mentoring, and then you know, oh, okay, now I know what it looks like because I know what it felt like for me as a mentor.
Yeah. I want to go back to one theme if we could. I know we're approaching a little bit. This whole theme, we touched on it, of corporate life and the environment around that, and to your own personal experience versus that entrepreneurial spirit. You've done both.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing both, right? And you've evolved along the way. How does somebody, the pluses and minuses, as you recall, of corporate life, entrepreneurial life, and finding what perhaps is right for me, whoever you are?
Mm. Well, I think we all have different risk tolerances, kind of built into our genetic coding in many ways, right? And so, whether that's based on having a more, privileged upbringing, or having, having been able to save, or knowing that you have a safety net, right? So it varies, right? So that's,
to which journey you might choose
to which
to
journey,
take.
right?
Yeah.
As to where you might, hey, this, in the theory that the corporate journey may have more security, in the theory of that.
Theory of it. These days,
Right. So again, it depends on, you can go work in a, early stage company, a startup, and there's maybe incredible upside, but, the failure rate is high. So, but that might teach you some really incredible things that you might use on whichever then road you choose, whether that gets, I'm going to go back towards a larger corporate. I learned what it takes to get something off the ground. Now I can maybe help run a division within a larger organization because I know what a startup, feels like and looks like. So it's, you don't get upside without risk. It's not a. So I think I can share. There are days when I go back. I left the corporate world 5-6 years into my journey, so it's been almost 40 years. I go back and I think, oh man,
it
would have been a lot easier, given the highs and lows and the journey. Yeah. But I think the experience of having that life filled with, even highs and lows, even with new relationships based on new ventures. That's one of the things I love about early stage investing. You meet these entrepreneurs and they're all excited. Most of them are not really entrepreneurs, right? They want to be entrepreneurs. But they don't really have the risk tolerance. They don't really have the ability to pivot quickly. So there's a lot of the real successful entrepreneurs have some things that most people don't, and that's not making it good or bad, but they have some other attributes that
built into their DNA, do you think, or it evolves?
I think a lot of it is built into, maybe we can call it the DNA or their upbringing or what they observed, their ability to observe things, or some early career experiences that then sort of feed that dormant entrepreneurial spirit. Right. But it's a different journey. I would say, why choose one? You can have both.
Yeah, you've demonstrated.
We live in a world where you can have both, right? There's a lot more tolerance and flexibility. So you can have your comfort in your career. Again, I don't look at, I average probably, my whole career, 70, 80 hours a week that someone would put in the box of work. I don't feel like I've ever worked a day in my life. Okay. Because, whatever the things that I'm doing.
You enjoyed what you were doing?
Yeah, and some of it is for fun. I keep that client because I need to pay those bills. And some of it I'm doing this other work because that's exciting and it's interesting and I'm learning and I'm growing and it puts me and surrounds me with interesting people. There's so many ways of making impact on the world. There's so many ways of leading towards, success. The last comment on that is I always ask the people I'm coaching, when was the last time at the end of your day you felt a sense of satisfaction? Mm-hmm. Not overwhelmed, not exhausted, not I got through the effing day. How did you feel? Just a sense of satisfaction. Because if we can get there, then you can get to engaged and thriving.
Right.
But if you're just struggling, then you're doing the wrong thing.
Right. Whether it's entrepreneurial or corporate,
whatever it might
PR, whatever, right?
Whatever it might be.
And there's not a sequence on that. Let me just clarify, would you say to our listeners out there, oh, you got to have the traditional experience first before you can go out on your own, being an entrepreneur? Or no, maybe it's okay. I'm going to test the startup first and maybe pivot the other way. Would you agree? I mean,
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would have one caveat.
good.
Again, depending on what you
Risk
got,
tolerance.
what your education gave you in terms of your formal education, because there are some structural things that you do gain having systems around you, realizing, oh, that's why we have systems. Because now you're starting your own thing. You're going, oh, you know about the systems things, whatever, investments in technology.
But you never experienced it.
Never experienced.
Yeah, I get
you know, all the what it means to communicate.
Yeah, there's a lot of
human
learning
resource functions. To be able to observe that for a few years
Okay.
gives you,
I
a
agree.
toolkit
I
to
agree.
bring into your
I
entrepreneurial
agree.
venture. But sometimes people have that in the school in their internships and
Possibly.
So we're going to have to wrap up
Yeah.
soon. There's one thing I wanted to touch on for the benefit of our audience. You're an angel investor.
Sure.
What should early stage entrepreneurs know about two things, funding and leadership? What's the advice you can give?
So this is like a 1 minute advice?
Yes.
Funding, it's not easy to find funding. We see 100 business plans a month, and we're a small fund. And we'll invest in 6 to 8 companies a year. So it's less than 0.5%. I would say pre-COVID, that was probably 1 to 2%. So it's harder. It's harder to get funding. So which means tapping into friends and family network, obviously having a legitimate business marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
You may need to tap into friends and family rounds.
Early rounds, yeah.
For a longer period of time so that you can then have some that market validation. So I think that's really important. And whether you're a later stage entrepreneur and putting your own money in or friends and family or your network, because if you can get them to believe in early and you can use those tens of thousands, few $100,000 to really prove out, then when you go to funding, you can also demand a valuation that doesn't dilute you right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important because if you're under, if you don't have any market traction, your valuation will never be justified. What was the second part of it? So
Leadership.
So it's interesting for our fund. We take all the founding teams during our due diligence through a series of leadership assessments. The founding team. So what are we looking for? We're looking for, number one, there needs to be what we call utilitarians on the founding team, meaning that people who have a focus on return on investment. That you're going to take now this money. If we're just going to, do things with it versus, that you're very deliberate about deploying time, energy, resources, right? So that can be assessed. And so we use some third-party assessment to do that. We also look for people who have a high level of self-esteem.
Confidence.
Because when they're very role-dependent, I'm the CEO of my startup. Well, who else is in the room?
Right.
I'm the CEO. That's nice, but if your identity is tied to being a CEO versus chief cook and bottle washer, because you're going to have to do a lot of things at that early stage. So having a strong level of self-esteem because you're going to meet failure, there's no doubt. Being able to pivot, the likelihood of hearing others' perspectives has a lot to do with your level of self-esteem, rather than fighting it because it questions your self-esteem. So I would say, that self-esteem, I have a third one, the utilitarian, and I would say the last one is relationship building, right? That your ability to build relationships, to connect with people. A lot of times, and it frustrates me because sometimes people are nervous or whatever, and you stand in front of a room and you can't answer all the questions or you come across as unsure. A lot of times I'm standing in front of a room with 40, 50 people staring at me And maybe I'm a newer, I'm earlier in my fundraising process. So I don't give as much credibility, but you need to at least be authentic and genuine when you're standing in front of the room. And obviously have passion for what you're doing, but not delusion. There's that fine line between passion and delusion. So be grounded in know your competitive landscape.
Right.
Don't say we're the only ones doing this, because I have 30 or 40 business plans that are doing exactly the same thing. So don't be delusional.
Authenticity. Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's great. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I knew it would be a great episode. Lots of great stuff for our listeners to grasp upon. Your insights on leadership, self-awareness, and the power of small shifts.
Amen.
Power of small shifts
It's
and
inspiring.
entrepreneurialism. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Richard. It's great. Yeah.
We'll be back next time with more great guests and good advice for those entering the workforce or young professionals who are navigating their career, or even people who want to make a pivot. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere podcasts can be heard. And we drop an episode on the 1st and 15th of every month. Bill, you didn't have to ask me this time.
I am very impressed you got that right. We might have some regular watchers and listeners now of Bill and Jerry's excellent podcast, Spilling the Career Tea. I hope we're building that. We'll see.
We're getting a lot of good feedback. So thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time.